Hello everybody, welcome to this week's Dissecting Design. We are taking a look at Furi and the development of essentially a boss rush game design, or a game that's built entirely on bosses. Now, for old school fans, you've probably heard the term boss rush before. It's typically describing a section of a game where the player must play through or go up against all the bosses up until that point. It's very popular among classic and retro games such as Mega Man, and even the modern kind of design with Shovel Knight. The idea is that this is supposed to be the final test for the player. You fought all the bosses before, now you do it again. In a lot of cases, you may have to fight the bosses one right after another. Now, with that said, though, there are a few examples of games that are built entirely around bosses. And this is a very interesting form of design, as well as challenging the player in terms of essentially cutting out all the fat of everything else. And because of that, there are some pretty big pros and cons of this approach. But in terms of games I've actually gone with this kind of boss rush design, there's only a few that I can think of. Besides, of course, Furi here, we have the Punch-Out series, and of course, Shadow of the Colossus. Now, if you can think of any other games, please let me know in the comments below, because I am curious. I'm just going to lower the sound a little bit more, because while it isn't too loud now, it's going to get very loud once we start playing. So, I'm going to jump into a boss fight, and we'll show off just what we're talking about in terms of this kind of boss rush design. Alright, welcome back. We are against the first boss of Furi, and this will be a good idea to talk about the general structure of the game. For a kind of boss rush kind of gameplay like this, it is all about dealing with a single enemy at one time. There are no regular enemies. There are no cutscenes or puzzles. It's just you and the boss. And apparently I am way out of practice. Oh, jeez. Very much out of practice. The idea is the bosses are built around a number of waves or phases, as you can see in the upper right. Underneath his health bar are those orange squares. And once we've exhausted each one, we will go to another phase, which will change up the pattern.
I was hoping you'd figure it out, so I can hurt you real bad.
Now, the boss itself, in terms of its general application, will not change. But each boss has its own unique abilities. There we go. Got him there. Let's see. Can I parry those shots? I'm trying to remember. Now, another major part of boss rush design is that there is no true progression. In the sense that we're not going to be unlocking any new moves, any new powers, anything like that. Basically, what we start with is what we're going to have for the end. Now, keep that in the back of your mind, because it will be coming back later on when we talk about some of the cons of boss rush design. Now, this guy is set up as your tutorial, which means I am limited in the different ways of taking him down. But at least you can get in some fun. So one of the things about the game, is there are a number of advanced tactics, including being able to parry. I'm going to see if I can get a perfect parry, if it's possible for me. It may not be possible for this tutorial. We have this charge slash. Now that should take him down to this next phase. Now, you look underneath my health bar, you'll see 3 blue squares. Those are essentially my life points. Every time I run out of health, we restart the phase. There you go. So you can, let's see, can parry these shots. Come on, buddy, I'm ready for you. And speedrunning this game is all about just purely optimizing every hit that you have.
This has been fun, but it's time.
Love that purple sky, too. Now, one thing about Furi that is different from other boss rush focused games is the idea of the shmup aspects. And you'll see that probably by the end of this fight. You want to do something, buddy? I hope I can, or this will be one very awkward dissecting design. I'm trying to get fancy with those perfect parries, and I just don't have the timing down at the moment. It's also not easy to do when you're trying to talk about this game at the same time. You can also shoot those shots out of the air. Yeah, the timing is pretty much frame perfect for the counters. And then if you do something cool, you get this badass cutscene. Oh, I thought I could get around it. And enemies will track you. It's all about, again, getting the proper timing down. I probably should have done a charge slash there. There we go. It's cool when you get the badass moments, right? Now, the game does come with different difficulty levels, which we'll talk about later when we get to progression. But a major part of this kind of boss rush design, again, is the fact that there are no minor enemies. We are just doing one thing, and that is fighting bosses. So it's kind of a philosophical question. If all we're fighting are bosses, or do we still consider them boss class? Because there are no minor enemies to kind of associate or differentiate between the two. Gotcha. Now, we are almost done with this fight. Now, the story of Furi, while we're just kind of wrapping things up, is that we've been jailed, and all the bosses are basically our jailers, keeping us from escaping. Now, there's a deeper part, but that's all we really need to know for right now. That should take us down to the second to last phase. Oh, I'm sorry. Now we have the melee. Most bosses have a range phase, and then the actual melee, like what we're seeing right here. Oh. Get away from me, buddy. And again, if I was more or better practice, we probably would have killed this boss by now with far less attacks.
You're gonna take some putting back together when I'm done with you.
And we'll show off a few of the different bosses as we play this. Alright, I think this is the one where we have to just get around here. Normally for the shooting phase, you're supposed to use your gun, but it's also good just to do like charge shots on him. If you can actually keep him in your sight, that is. There we go. You just want to shoot that wave out. Again, once his health bar completely runs out, that'll be our cue to enter the melee territory. Now, in other boss rush games, usually bosses will only have one health bar. They may go through different phases while they're having that one health bar, but it's not like we're fighting the same boss or going through multiple versions of it. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. Alright, now this is the final wave, and this is when the shmup aspects of Furi kick in.
There is no way
For those of you who are foe sensitive, we're about to have a little bit of a light show here. So we're going to now attempt to survive this giant wave of bullets and death coming at us. Now, and again, this is a unique part of Furi's design. Not every boss rush focus game will have this, obviously. Oh, just got hit there. I can't break those with my normal weapon. It's gotta be range. There you go, that's better. Again, once you figure out the pattern, it's just about you being able to perform it optimally.
I'm gonna kill you.
No, I don't think so, buddy. So this is his last hurrah there. When they're flashing orange like that, it means you cannot hurt them. Wait for it. Goodbye. And you're out. And that's boss. So we're going to skip the cutscenes because we're not going to really focus too much on the story of Furi. But I'm going to cut things here, and for this next part we'll talk about kind of how boss rush design is different from other games. So I'll see you all in 1 second. Alright, welcome back. I've muted the sound and voice acting so we have a chance to talk about the major difference between boss rush oriented games. Typically for any kind of video game, there is a form of progression. Levels grow, you introduce new enemies, you introduce new systems. Again, what you're doing from A to Z or from beginning to end has to change. Boss rush design like this works differently. As I showed you in the last section, my moveset for Furi never changes. I'm never going to unlock a new power. I'm never going to get a health upgrade. I'm going to remain consistent from beginning to end. And that's a very big part because boss rush design is built entirely on the player's skill, going back to games like Shadow Colossus and Super Punch-Out. And again, because there are no bosses and there's no other gameplay, boss rush games run relatively lean compared to other titles. Like, you're not going to see a game like Furi or anything else like this be like a 50-60 hour experience. And because of that level of skill focus is generally why these games are popular for speedrunning. Because again, you can break this down into individual sections based on the various bosses. Now, this is a little vignette of me going between or before and after each level. That's a unique factor of Furi. Not every game or every boss rush game will have this. Now, the only kind of exception to this rule would be Shadow the Colossus, which basically lets you explore the world while you're going in between the various colossi fight. But again, the bulk of the gameplay, or what the player is going to be doing, is combat. And as I said, a major part of boss rush design is the fact that there shouldn't be any major forms of progression. As in, nothing that's going to change how I play this game from boss 2 to boss 3 to boss 5 and etc. Now, with that said, because there isn't a form of progression, this does make boss rush design very polarizing, and Furi is no exception to it. And we'll talk about that in a later section. So, what I'm going to do, and of course our little bunny friend keeps talking there, what we're going to do is cut ahead to a later boss and kind of show how things get more and more interesting. And then after that, we'll talk about some issues, and then we'll probably wrap things up, because again, the beauty of boss rush design games is that they're not really that long. So there isn't a lot for us to dig into. But anyway, as this is wrapping up, I will see you all in a future section. Alright, welcome back. I'm going to be showing off a later fight in Furi in practice mode, hence why there's a timer at the top. To make things even more interesting, I'm playing this on hard mode. Yes, Furi does have a hard mode in it. And that means, of course, having to relearn all the lovely patterns. But this is a good example of, again, how different challenges can be in a boss rush focused game. Our first fight was with a very combat heavy boss. This time it's going to be a lot different. Oh jeez. A lot more different than I thought it would be too. But that's good. It makes things a little bit more exciting, doesn't it? I'm probably going to die here, but we'll see what happens. Can I do it? But again, notice how different this fight is compared to our last one. I'm really surprised I did that on my first try. Instead of combat, we're instead having to get around and maneuver. Which apparently I am having a very, very tough time with. And every boss is different on hard mode. Oh, no you don't. Oh, yay, we made it.
Yes, I am paying the price for my people's freedom, but it's worth it.
That doesn't bode well for me. Hey, oh. Oh. No, can't fail here. Oh yeah, we did. But yeah, this is definitely a lot more challenging on hard mode. But that is good, because it shows the creativity that you can have in this kind of boss rush centric design. Because you're not designing multiple enemies, it makes it free to get really creative with the individual ones that you have. Come on, baby. Oh no! Oh, jeez. And getting the patterns down can be very tricky, as you can see here. Almost.
Look at
Got
you.
it.
I don't understand. We're so alike.
Again, this is my first time playing this on hard mode, too. So I really know how to make things difficult for myself.
You are a monster.
Yeah, I know. But we're almost there. And as I was saying, with these different bosses in Furi, it gives designers a lot of leeway to design them differently because they know that the player's abilities or what moves we have never changes. You're never unlocking new powers, more health, anything along those lines. So it's up to the designers to get creative with how they build these enemies. So it's time we say goodnight to her. And there's an even harder difficulty after this. Because why not? But that is time. I don't think I got a good score, though. How did I get an A? And then your rewards for doing really well in the practice is different concept art. But, again, the beauty of this kind of design is that you're not going to see it in this video, but every boss is different like this. One boss is a hide-and-seek battle, another one you're essentially fighting your clone, and so much more. And that's the beauty of this kind of boss rush design. If you really want a good case in point, you can see the sheer number of differences in the Colossi fight of Shadow of the Colossus. But, like I said, there are some major limitations to this kind of boss rush centric design. And that's what we're going to talk about and begin to wrap up this week's dissection. Alrighty, we're back at the title to probably wrap up our talk on Furi. And that is discussing some of the issues of this kind of boss-centric design. As you've seen, as we've talked about over the length of this video, boss rush focused games are very lean. There are no extra systems, there's no additional stuff to do other than fighting the bosses. And because of that, it means that progression is entirely focused on the player. If you're really good at the game and figure out the basics early, you're going to speed right through the game. If you run into any trouble or can't figure something out, there are no buffers to help you get around it. Now, Furi does come with an easy mode, but the game basically tells you that this doesn't get you anything good. Like, they expect you to play this game on normal, which you can see right there. Promenade is easy. And then Furier is hard, and then there's Furious, I think, which is like even harder. But, again, this can be very polarizing for players. In other challenging games like the Souls series, you have other means of getting around a tough fight. You can upgrade your gear, you can raise your soul level. It's not just about you being, a pro esports, 0.1% expert player at the game. But in a game like this, you can very well hit a point where you can't progress. The boss is too hard, you can't figure out the pattern, and there's nothing that's going to help you. And this can be very frustrating for a lot of people, because it's not you saying that you're done with the game, it's the game basically saying you can't play this anymore, you're not good enough. And I am sure that a game like Furi, and even something like Punch-Out and Shadow of the Colossus, may have annoyed a few people because of that. Probably less with Shadow of the Colossus due to the easier mechanics. But for those of you watching this who have played a game like Furi, or have played this one in particular, what do you think about this kind of lack of in-game progression? Do you like it? Do you wish that there would have been like health upgrades or something else that changes over the length of the play? Because as we've said, when it comes to boss rush centric design, the player can't change. Because each boss has to be designed to test the player on all the mechanics that are given at the time. If you design a new mechanic, then that means that certain bosses can't be played, either because the mechanic breaks that fight, or the player can't fight that boss until they've unlocked that new move. And like I said, it's very interesting designing a game like this, because you are pretty much removing a lot of the extra features of a game, and as we've seen with the difference in the boss fights, it really opens up the door for you to get creative, because it's far easier to design 10 to 15 unique enemy fights as opposed to 40, 50, and so on and so forth. For those of you who watch this, like I said, I'm curious what you think about Furi and games of this manner. And like I said, if there's any other games that have gone full boss rush like this, let me know in the comments below, because I do want to check them out. As for my final thoughts on Furi, I like the game, but I did also hit that wall, especially trying to play the game on Furier difficulty. But I'm really excited to see them try to expand things out further. I know there's actually DLC with an additional fight unlocked, which I did not purchase. But the other quick example, or another quick benefit, is that because we're only dealing with these bosses and sections, it makes it a lot easier to add more content, because we're not having to design brand new levels, we just need to design a brand new enemy. But with all that said, thank you for watching this week's Dissecting Design. Again, this should be on the shorter end, simply, again, because of the nature of boss rush centric design. If you're new, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Once again, this has been Furi, and a look at boss rush focused design. And check back Mondays for more Dissecting Design pieces. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and come back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. For a collection of my writings, as well as weekly podcasts on game development, be sure to check out game-wisdom.com. Follow me on Twitter at GWBicer for updates throughout the day. And to help support everything that I do, you can find me on Patreon under GW Bicer, or Game Wisdom. Your donations can help to keep things running, and we hit some goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy. So, thanks again for watching, and be sure to come back for daily discussions on game design on the Game Wisdom channel.